Morning, gang. Morning, gang. Sound like one of those annoying teachers walking in. Morning, gang. And morning. Anyway, I saw 2001, A Space Odyssey. 2001 colon, A Space Odyssey last night. I've never seen it before. This is in my, ongoing lifelong journey of seeing the films that you should see. It's supposed to be one of the best films of all times, in the top 100 at IMDb. It's in the top 10 in Sight and Sound. It's one of the most influential sci-fi films of all time, I've been told. So I went to see it at the BFI IMAX. It was an IMAX showing. Had a great seat. I have to say that I found the experience extremely unsettling. Going in, I kind of knew that it was going to be more of a, what's the word? I was going to say mood piece. Is that the right term? Than a narrative piece. And I knew that there was going to be like prolonged periods of silence and music and sound effects and all this rather than actual dialogue or plot. There actually ended up being more narrative and plot than I expected. So I actually thought it was just going to be like... I didn't even know that there was this whole kind of progression of the monolith thing. By the way, I'm just going to give spoilers because the film was made 60 years ago. And I'm not going to detail anything because I can't be arsed. But basically, I didn't realise the whole progression of the monolith through these kind of eras or instances or characters was even a thing. I knew that it went from the dawn of humans to kind of future or now. But I didn't know that it had that thread running through it. And I really liked that because it's just something to latch on to. And looking up about it, everyone's kind of online seems to be kind of on this idea of oh, what does it all mean? It feels quite obvious what it means. I'm not saying I can put it into words necessarily, but it feels pretty obvious what it means. At the start, it's like the dawn of man, and this monolith comes, and that kind of propels us into becoming man. And then at the end, he's almost transcended man, and he's almost like a higher being or something. Now, what the monolith stands for in that, I'm not sure, but I feel like it stands for being influenced by another higher power. And then at the end, he's still reaching for more and more and more. That's a shit summary of what I feel like the film's trying to say. But anyway, it makes sense in your head kind of thing is what I'm saying. I don't think it's it's not like a cliffhanger. I don't think it's confusing in the sense that it doesn't make sense. It makes sense. It's just hard to put into words. So I'd say my main takeaway was I found it unsettling because of the sound design is deliberately unsettling. And I knew that it, that it was going to be quite moody, but I thought it's PG. I just didn't go in expecting any kind of Kubrickian creepiness. But it was really creepy. Especially towards the end, it started to feel like The Shining. He's got some real tropes, hasn't he, Kubrick? And I felt like I was bored at points. I was really bored at points. But all the while, I was really admiring it. Some of the effects really hold up. And I was going in thinking it was just going to be like Star Wars, some fucking models flying through the air. It doesn't look like that. It's actually insane. And the interiors of the spaceships with all the kind of gravity bending visuals look really good. Still, immaculately good. I'm not saying oh yeah, really good, well done in the 60s. They look immaculately good. Sometimes I don't think sci-fi movies now live up to the visuals of this film. It was fucking incredible. But yeah, I found it really creepy. I found all that music oh, with the monolith, and the fucking sound in that BFI IMAX was so loud. So the whole thing was quite unsettling, and I was cramped in against two guys, and one guy had loads of seats next to him and he didn't move up. I was going to be oh, can I swap with you? Because I'm fine sitting a bit further to the right. I couldn't be asked. Anyway, I was so bored that I actually fell asleep for 5 minutes. And I know it was 5 minutes because I've gone back to check was it, like, how much did I actually miss? But it was actually 5 minutes, and it was fucking terrifying when I was woken up. I felt I couldn't have fallen asleep at a worse part. I fell asleep when they're like visiting Jupiter, I think it is, and they descend onto the thing, and there's the monolith there, all lit up, and it's kind of a reflection of the apes with the monolith bit, and they go up and they kind of gingerly touch the monolith, and then it goes like that, and I was, when you're in that drop-off point of falling asleep like this, and I was like, and it went, I swear to fucking God, I've never felt that scared waking up. My brain went, where the fuck are you? Oh my God, I'm on another planet. There's astronauts. Oh my God, I'm gonna die. And then out of the corner of my eye, there was like, I saw that there were people next to me. I'd completely forgotten that I was in a cinema. I saw there were people next to me, and I went, oh, who's that? They're in my bed, they're in my house. Like, in that millisecond, it all went through my head. I was like, I'm in danger. And I was like, and then in the middle of that thought, I kind of realized what had happened. And I kind of was feeling it at the same time as I was already starting to apologize, because I fucking went woof and smashed my knees against both people either side. Everyone behind me must have known I'd fallen asleep. And I went, oh, sorry, like this. And he didn't even acknowledge me, which made me feel more embarrassed. Anyway, I went back to watch that bit. So I've now finished the puzzle. I've seen the 5 minutes I missed. But I kind of feel like I experienced that scene really fucking well, because it scared the shit out of me. And I much preferred it when it was like on a plot, the second half basically, like when it felt more plotty. So like with the whole Hal thing, Mutiny of Hal and all this. And I liked the apes at the start because that felt in tandem with that. I wasn't as keen on the kind of first third, where it's like traveling to the moon and talking in the space station and like having a big board meeting and stuff. I don't really care about that. I just felt like it should have just been about the mission and Hal, but who am I to say? I also feel like the main thing I want to get across is I was amazed at how clearly influential this film is for the sci-fi genre. I couldn't believe how much. I'd been told how much all my film-loving life, and I have always thought, I must watch it. But I couldn't believe how much. Like, every single sci-fi is a reflection of this film. Every single sci-fi is an echo of this film. It's like an untied sequel to this film in some ways. Like, the visuals we take for granted now, but I think that I get the feeling that this established the language of sci-fi visuals, both from a cinematography point of view and an effects point of view, and also a art direction point of view, like a set design and costume design and things like that. Like, just the way that everything looks has just been imitated ever since. And it's almost as if the footprint of this film has like underlined the sci-fi genre so much so that it's been hard for anyone to do anything new, because you're always low-key copying this. And if you're not copying this, then you're copying the thing that already copied this. Like whether it's Alien or Star Wars or whatever. They're all from this. And I feel like there's only a few examples of films that really don't feel like this, but are sci-fi. And I think that there's reasons for that. For example, the recent Denis Villeneuve Dune doesn't feel at all like this in terms of the craft and all that. But I know that that's because it's adapted from a book. And so the descriptions are from the book. I don't even know when that book was written, but there's an excuse for that. Do you know what I mean? I just think any like original sci-fi, and even some unoriginal sci-fi, is just a reflection of this. And so the main point being Interstellar. Interstellar is in my top 5 films of all time. I've only got a very few films of mine a rated 10 out of 10, like perfect rating. And that's one of them. I think it's brilliant. I think it's Nolan at his best because you get all the flair and narrative ingenuity of Nolan and the visual flair of Nolan. But you also get the heart and the emotion with it, which you rarely get. The whole father-daughter relationship in that is brilliant and perfect. And I was watching this, having just kind of like generating this unbelievable respect for this film to have such an influence on something like Interstellar, as well as all the others. But I'm just focusing on Interstellar because it's one of my faves. And also having newfound respect for Interstellar and for Nolan, because I didn't put him down as someone... I put him down as someone who had real strong influences, but I didn't put him down as someone who displayed those influences on his sleeve. And that might be silly of me. Let me just think. Yeah, because I think his influences are clear, but I think in Interstellar, it's like unashamedly... like copying 2001. And again, I loved that. Like, I loved watching this and being like, there's some music cues that are exactly the same. Like, there's one shot of like the spinning craft, and then this big classical piece kind of fades out and goes, yeah, and you're still watching the spinning craft in silence. And Nolan does that exact thing in Interstellar. And I would say it's a coincidence if it wasn't for the fact that there's like 20 other things that are the same as well. It's like, the use of silence is a big one. Also, the kind of narrative around interdimensional or higher beings, but then them being us, is such a huge one. The fact that like the higher being in Interstellar is Matthew McConaughey, but then the higher being in this ends up being the dude, the astronaut, I don't know his name, is exactly the same. And fair enough, they go down different routes and there's different like pillars in that story, but it's the same. And what are there other things? Anyway, you get what I'm talking about. Oh, and also the film Moon, the what's it film? David Bowie's son did that film Moon. I mean, he obviously he knew it was he marketed it as like a 2001 rip-off, and proudly, and it is really good because that's got like a HAL-esque thing. And yeah, I mean, even the robots in Interstellar are a reflection of HAL in a way, and but like the good version. And yeah, I had so many better examples of this before yesterday when I was talking to my mate about it, but I found it incredible, and it's made me... I have watched Interstellar recently, but it's made me want to watch it again very soon. Yeah, so I'm not saying I massively enjoyed 2001, but I massively respected it. Will I be watching it again? Probably not. It's quite tough going. It's very slow going, and I can imagine when it was released, it will have been an incredible experience, especially with the pace of films back then. But now... it pales, for me, as like a contemporary viewer, pales in comparison to something like Interstellar, which I see as it, but with added plot, essentially, and added emotion. And I saw that Interstellar is my 2001. And so in 60 years, I'll be saying how good Interstellar is, and maybe I'll be dead. And someone who's 30 will be preferring something that came out then. That's just the way life works, isn't it? Yeah. So thanks for coming, guys. See you next time.